I think what would be really interesting to know is like, how did you, what was like the initial thought that triggered to kind of create LeadGen as a form builder, or like what happened at the start? What was the idea that got us here?
Okay, cool. So I think that's a very good question. It reminds me of a story where I actually got this iPhone in 2013, maybe 2014, and I had a problem with my iPhone. The battery wasn't working properly, and I went to Apple Store's website, and they have a really, even now, like they still use that system where you first select what your device is, because they have obviously tons of devices, and then you select what the category of the problem is, and then you select what the problem is. So eventually you go through like 3 or 4 questions to reach to a point where they help you. I really liked the interface at that point, and it was so easy because it was just literally with less distractions. There were not many choices, and the only one question they asked was directly related to my problem. So I felt that I thought like that could be applied to lead generation, in which you could ask your prospects about their problems. You can direct them to each question at a time without having to asking them to fill out a huge form with lots of fields. And the first version of lead gen was like this form which we created for our own agency, where we had it's still live actually. We'll put it in the notes here, and it kind of started with the question of like, where are you based, what kind of service you need, what's your budget, and eventually the last question was, give us your name, email, and phone number. And I kind of had this hunch where if people who were interested to obviously work with us and they would answer this first question, they would be more willing to fill out the form. Because if you have the first question as it's like a step in the door technique where you will ask a very simple question to get them fill the form. And the human behavior is, if somebody starts something, they would like to finish it. People like humans, they see reward at the end of it if they complete an action. And the same applied to this form. But the problem was like later on I realized if I were to add a new step, I have to like reach out to my developer and he has to write code, all this stuff. It was so hard to make changes, and especially when we linked it up with Zapier, and I wanted this lead to come to, I don't know what kind of system we were using then, but even to send out a simple email notification was so hard because it required a developer, and also it meant time and effort, because this developer had to like recode everything, and just for one little step. And in order to like really allow me to make changes, I thought we need to create a system. And also later on, that was like very later on that I realized we could actually sell this as a system. So the first iteration was to create a version which I could use as a user rather than thinking about customers. And the first version then became this MVP where I was able to create or add steps and modify them, and change the email notification, and at least generate a lead which didn't require any development work. So it was completely managed by me. But although it did require somebody like really advanced to use this tool, the later versions kept on improving, where we added more user kind of like better user interfaces and improved user experience. So nowadays, like we have a form builder which doesn't require you to be an IT expert. You can literally be in a marketing department, or any kind of, even a student. We have a person who's in college and he uses LeadGen pretty well. So that kind of shows overall the transition from being a very dev product now being a very user focused product.
Okay, nice. And at the time when you started looking into it, were they multi-step forms on the web already, or was it like no one really used?
I don't think so. There were very few cases where I remember seeing them on like some financial websites like mortgage suppliers, but I'm pretty sure they were hard coded and they were quite custom to their development. but it wasn't a mainstream thing, and there were no tools which allowed you to create these forms. The only close example I remember was Typeform, but Typeform had its own problem where everything is like vertical, and also you can't really design it or like embed it in a tiny, let's say, space. You go to Typeform's website and they have their own kind of experience, which probably is cool for some users, but I wanted to have a form which I could use in my own branding and in my own website.
Yeah, and you wanted to capture leads from it and really maximize conversions, which is a different need than just building a form, right? So I think we have a clear use case, and you were always focused on just making it work, get a stream of leads coming through, rather than just collecting responses on a very casual level, on a questionnaire sort of form style. So I think that's a clear differentiation of where you would use a multi-step lead gen form versus a type form or other forms.